Hey everyone, Vito from MoreBeer. We're in Livermore, California at Altamont Beer Works. We brewed this beer, More Clear, More Beer, with them as a collaboration using Viking malt. So we're gonna go inside, do an interview, talk about Altamont Beer Works, Mac Dre beers, all of their West Coast IPAs, and a bunch of other stuff. Check it out. So I want to go into your story, but I want to introduce you and how I met you, because I think it was like one of the cooler things and why I gravitated towards the beer industry. So I was helping out a friend of mine, Craig, who opened a brewery in town here, Livermore, called Shadow Puppet Brewing. We were coming over here to grab some yeast from you.
Yeah.
So you were actually like giving him yeast for his new brewery that's opening in town, kind of, could be considered competition, competitor, but like that love that was there. And then, fast forward a couple years later, I opened a brewery, a couple cities over, hit you up, we did collabs together, you came out and did collabs with me. So you're always like supporting what you would think would be competition, but that supporting the beer industry was just something that I thought was cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've always, from day one, been that way just because that's how we grew. When we first started, we weren't, a brewer from another brewery. We weren't a brewery with funding. We weren't any of that. So as we were reaching out, asking favors from everybody. My mentor up at Boneyard Beer, Tony Lawrence, who helped me out with everything. I mean, he sent us our first yeast pitch we ever used because we didn't have money to buy a first yeast pitch. So he sent me some hops down. A couple other breweries locally would always help us out, and we kind of have always done that. So it's kind of more of returning the favor back to everybody else. And honestly, there's so much of, as you grow, just bulk buying power and stuff or even hop varietals, right? It's like we look to the person above us to get certain stuff from, so pay back,
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
That's
great. Our industry.
It's great. I mean, you guys are awesome for that. Let's go back. So go back to your roots now. So I know you started as a home brewer. So like, let everybody know kind of your, how you got to this point here.
Yeah, and honestly, homebrewing was kind of came up on me from a near, I don't even know how to say it, a horrific back accident. But I really wasn't even that big of I was obviously a beer drinker, but coming out of college and everything, it was like my first IPA was like Alaskan IPA, I think. I was a PBR guy and all that, and just got more and more into beer. When the economy took a crap in 7, 8, 9, ended up moving back home from Sacramento, moving in with my folks, working for my dad, and was doing that gig and wasn't really 100% loving it. And then I severely injured my back where I wasn't able to walk for a couple weeks and couldn't drive for a few months. And we were actually, which I think is you guys now, brewmaster in San Leandro.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So my dad's trucking companies in San Leandro and I couldn't drive. So he was driving me back and forth to work and he had to run an errand right next to brewmaster, and it was like, make beer at home. And I was like, well, fuck, I mean, can't snowboard, can't wakeboard, can't golf. I'm like, oh, I might as well try and make some beer. So got a beer kit and bought that first 5-gallon bucket, and some extract, and made a beer. And I remember cooling it off in my parents' pool, put the whole bucket in the pool on the step because it was the middle of winter.
Yeah.
That's my wart chiller. And kind of it got into that, and it was one of those things where 6 months later I was building a full all-grain brewing system, stand, and full automation and everything else, and getting into it and brewing for a bunch of buddies' weddings and stuff like that, and family parties. And I was 25 years old and was like, I'm started brewing in Livermore, I guess. 26, I don't know, 25, 26.
We talked to Norby earlier, your head brewer, and he had said he met you through Mad Zymergus.
Yeah, we were Mad Z's, yep.
Okay,
yep,
so homebrew club, local
homebrew club, and I think me and Norby were pretty much the youngest dudes in the club by a long shot, which is pretty standard.
Yeah, I'm starting to get up there because I've been doing this for a while, but like I remember when I joined Doe's, like I was the youngest.
Oh, I think we were the youngest by far.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's how I met Norby. Super fun dude, hanging out, just having a beer. And when I met Norby, I was on like tail end of homebrewing and started mentoring under Tony Lawrence and learning a lot more about beer and how to make it better, and even kind of transitioning from a homebrew to switching recipes to not your standard homebrew recipe to more of commercial style brewing, bigger whirlpools and bigger dry hop and stuff that, like most homebrewers at the time were like, you got, IPA has to have a 40-minute edition, a 30, a 10. And I don't even think anybody was really whirlpooling much. I mean, a little bit, but not a big dose. So I just remember having a couple beers of Norby's at club meetings, and I'm like, what do you think? And I'm like, honestly, it's not great. Like, it needs a lot of work. And I would tell him, and legit, like the next meeting, he was like, dude, try it again. Like, it got better.
He made those adjustments.
Seriously. And then like he did that like twice, and I was like, all right, hey, maybe we should, talk to this kid and be like, hey, which kid I say that he's the same age as I am, or he's a year younger than me. But I was like, yeah. So I told him, hey man, I'm gonna start a brewery. You want to do it? And he's like, yeah, sure. So
let's talk through the build out. The old rule of thumb is like you're going to spend 2 to 3 times what you thought, and it's going to take 2 to 3 times longer. Was that true for you, or?
It was definitely longer. Having a lot of being born and raised in town was super helpful. Having connections of plumbing companies, concrete guys. Buddies with ranches where I could go dump concrete and dirt and stuff like that. Stuff that really will add up. I joke about what Norby and I talk about all the time, and even when Richie worked for us too. He's we would go to the CCBA talks, and you're sitting in there and you're talking to people about how to start a brewery. Should you start a brewery? And of course a bunch of people are like, it's a ton of work, it sucks, and which it does. It does, But it's one of those things where it's funny because you go and it's like, it's going to be at least $3 million. Oh, it's going to be at least $1 million. All this stuff. It's like, it's really not if you make the right decisions and the right people.
Yeah.
So we always joke about it because, we built, this place got built off of, it was about $225,000.
Wow.
So.
And I remember the first.
You pick and choose your battles. Yeah. It's changed a lot.
It was nice what you had for that price.
But I will say building out this new production facility that we're working on, dealing with the architects, the engineers, the designers, that's where it gets expensive, right? If you have endless pockets, it's awesome. But if you're down to do the nitty and gritty, we literally cut every trench ourselves. We hand dug it with friends. And again, I started when I was 25, 26. No one was really married yet. Homies were all, the ones that were working were firefighters. And so it was a lot easier to come after work and work till 1 a.m. drinking a bunch of PBRs, and I'm buying burritos. Now I have to hire stuff out because I don't have time to do that, family and all that. But we built it all by hand pretty much. And that's, I found a great equipment vendor that I worked directly with, and that saved us, $70,000, which I got quotes from everybody else. And like I said, we did all our own trench drains. We did all that. We hand laid all our own pipe.
I think that's good, and it's also important too, because you're not just making beer. You're really like a maintenance technician. You're really there's so much more that comes with the brewery than just making. Beer,
that's how I retain a lot of employees too. They're just the fact that you're a hands-on owner and can fix things. How many breweries do you go to and you're like, well, dude, why aren't you guys brewing? Oh, we're waiting for the plumber. I'm like, for what? What happened? Yeah. Oh, his pipe broke. Okay, go fix it. What are you guys waiting for? The only people we ever really call are HVAC guys, because I don't know how to do any HVAC. I don't mess with refrigeration. Yeah. Refrigeration's a whole nother level.
So question then, for anybody who's interested in opening a brewery, any words of advice or tips?
I think it's obviously not easy to do it. It takes a ton of work. I was working 100 hours a week, 150 hours a week. It's still something my wife and I talk about all the time. We weren't married yet. All my friends were getting married. I was hustling this, working for my dad too, full time. Oh, wow, man. And starting this. And I was working at Wente at the golf club. I was just trying to scrap, make money, and you get it done every night was here. Every weekend was here, I missed out on all that stuff. So luckily we were all pretty young and could make it happen. But I think being in the town that a lot of people is super helpful. And then when it comes to opening time, you're going to get that support too. Hard work ethics, number one. Making beer is obviously number one, but business, 100%. You see it all the time that we've talked to brewers, a lot of the ones that have closed over the last 4 or 5 years that went to Siebel, went to here and worked for the best breweries ever. But I want to start a brewery, but you know nothing about branding, you know nothing about business, you know nothing about any of that. And I remember talking to a few other brewers when I first got started, and they were like, you're going to make it because you're a business guy. Because that's what I went to school for. My dad's trucking company that I work for, who he just sold it last year, was 98 years in our family. My mom's side goes 70, 80 years back with restaurants. So it's like everybody in my family is
you guys
an
have a restaurant
entrepreneur.
too,
Yeah, it's a bunch of hardworking. So we get it, and it's not something you can teach people.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a right partnership and one does one or the other, even better. But partners are hard too.
It's definitely business, and I'm glad you mentioned the restaurant. My family owned restaurants in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And it's very the same. I think beer's real close to it because the margins are not that good, and you work a lot, fucking ton.
Well, and it's hilarious. We joke about all the time because my family just sold one of the restaurants that they own, and they're like, "Well, no one wanted to take it over." I'm like, "I did, because I want to go to culinary school. I want to start it." And my grandparents were like, the money's not there like it was when our grandparents owned them. You know, people don't drink 12 cocktails at lunch anymore. You know, it's not the way of life anymore. You know, so they convinced me not to because they were like, "Oh, you're gonna be working day in, day out, day out." And then I started a brewery.
Yeah,
and I'm working day in, day out. Like, I mean, there was times Norby and I joke about it. Like, we would get here at 5 a.m., mash in, brew one turn or maybe two, load the trucks up, go deliver, and then be back here by 4 o'clock and open 4 to 9. And then at night, you're doing some cellar work to get orders ready for the next day. I mean, there was times where you started here at 5, we weren't out here until 10 or 11.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a lot of work. Yeah.
And that's, you know, and that was doing basically 3 different jobs, titles at one brewery in one day.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it.
You gotta love it, you know, and I think branding's big too. Yeah, a lot of people know us for our brand, you know, and it's big, you know, I mean, there's days where I get frustrated with how much swag we have. I feel like we're a Zoomies that makes beer too, but I'm like, but then you walk around town or anywhere. I was in Concord the other day and saw 5 of our shirts.
Hometown.
And it's like, it's mind blowing, you know, where you don't see that a lot of other breweries, you know.
That's a great takeaway. Let's talk about branding now. So let's start with the first one that comes to my mind, Maui Waui. Right. That's, is that kind of your best seller probably?
Yep. That's like 60% of our production now.
So let's talk about the concept behind that. Love that it's a single malt beer. 2 hops. So real hops. Basic.
A little bit of, I guess 3, a little bit of Columbus in there, it. But yes, for 98% of it is Citra Mosaic. 50-50 split between the two.
Where did the concept come from? Yeah, like, is it, you know, I think tiki culture, that kind of stuff, but maybe?
No, it didn't at all. We actually, because again, we started it with no money. So like I had no hop contracts. I didn't know if I was gonna be in business a year later. So I was like, I can't contract hops, you know? And like most breweries, when you're in the building stage, you probably might start thinking about hops. I didn't. I was just like, well, whatever, we'll find them. We'll figure it out, you know? You know, which we didn't, you know, you look back at our year 1 of brew logs, like a lot of our recipes are kind of the same, but they've changed, right? Like we didn't have Citra, we didn't have Mosaic, we didn't have Amarillo, we didn't have Nelson, we just had the basics. We had like some Cascade, we had Summit, we had Chinook, we had CTZ, you know, we had whatever. So Tony had Citra Mosaic to send to me, so he sent me 11 pounds, or sold me 11 pounds of each hop. That's all we had.
Okay.
I think it was, or like maybe 22 of each. Might have been 22 of each. So get these things and we open up the bag and it's like, oh my God. Like, you know, like compared to using Super Galena, I think the coolest hop we used.
Super Galena.
Dude, when's the last time you heard that hop?
You're bringing me back.
Right?
Now,
That's what that was like our whirlpool of hell hopping was Super Galena when we first started. Like, but so we get those and I have no sight of getting any more. So I was like, dude, we got to make this beer like cool. Like let those hops shine, right? So I think pretty much the coolest hop we had, other than those 2 at the time, was probably Eldorado.
Eldo.
So and we still use Eldo quite a bit. Great hop, but we looking back at the original recipe, which I think I have it right here. It's pretty funny. We had to pick and choose. So it obviously naturally had some whirlpool of Citra Mosaic, but then it had a big dry hop. Let's see, here it is. Bravo First Wort, Bravo Cascade 10-minute, Eldorado Citra Mosaic Cascade Whirlpool, and then Mosaic Citra Eldorado in the dry hop. So super weird. Compared to what it was, but that's what we had to do. So I wanted to, what's the best way to let hop shine? I was like, we're just gonna do a nice IPA that we all want, because IPAs for us, obviously people for the longest time thought we were pretty much only an IPA brewery, but we just didn't. That's just what sold, and people liked our IPAs, and that's what got me to pay back my parents fast. So we made a lot of IPAs, and people just love IPAs. I mean, that's what I'm drinking right now, you know, so So we just did all 2-row, just let the hop shine. And big whirlpool, big dry hop, that had a 10, small little 10-minute addition. But it's funny, I think on the couple brewing, networks with Justin, the guys, I always throw out to homebrewers all the time, like, shoot me an email for a recipe, and people have emailed me for the Maui one. They're like, all right, what's up? What's missing here? I'm like, I swear to God, that's what the recipe is, man. I'm like, it's all 2-row and it's just Citra Mosaic, like,
I think there's something to be said for that. Like, it's back to the cooking analogy, like simplicity is complexity, right? Yep. Like the more basic you could keep it, it actually, when I started to go commercial brewing and do that, I was like, if I could do it with 3 hops, 1 or 2 malts, you don't need to like
some of your best like wood-fired pizza you've ever had. You're like, man, that sauce was amazing. What was it? Like San Marzano tomatoes and sea salt.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Super basic.
You don't need 15 other ingredients in there, It's like, so we kept it super simple. We literally had enough hops to do, which obviously we didn't even have enough because we blended a bunch of other crap in there, but 1 20-barrel batch. This was when we only had 4 tanks. We had the 320s and 140. So we did 1 20-barrel batch, and at the time, Rusty was working in our tasting room, and he owns Hop Divine here in town. And, so he's, he partakes in the, the medical, at the time, marijuana a little bit,
And that's
so big stoner at the time. So I literally, we're sitting there talking about it, and our old tasting room girl was like, because we use Mosaic hops was the highlight of that. We had more Mosaic in the original recipe than we did Citra. And she had mentioned, let's do a stained glass IPA. And I was like, no, because we do Mosaic thing. And I'm like, that's not us, that's not going to work. And so I go to Rusty and I'm like, hey man, what's a weed strain that's super tropical or known? He goes, you idiot, Maui Waui. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that works. Okay, cool. So me and Norby Richie were all like, yeah, fuck yeah, Maui Waui, let's call that. And I remember going home to my wife and she was like, her girlfriend, like I said at the time, she goes, I don't know. It just doesn't, I don't think that sounds great. And I was like, I don't know. We have a lot of stoner customers. Everyone thinks I'm like the world's biggest stoner, but I'm not just because I'm a snowboarder, wakeboarder, and I talk like I am, and I wear flat bill hats, and whatever.
I'm surprised no one had grabbed that name, honestly.
Yeah.
That's really
so
cool.
Then I go and trademark it right away.
Okay.
And the only thing that popped up on the trademark was Pal Maui vodka. So I was like, whatever, cool. So I signed a thing that we can't sell it in Maui, and I was like, whatever, I don't care. I don't know if we're ever gonna sell beer to the islands. It really doesn't tickle my fancy to sell beer over there,
Yeah.
They got their own thing going over there, and it takes forever to get your beer there. And yeah. So so we stuck it, and then it just turned into that first year we brewed it once. The next year it was twice because I could scrap another box from someone. Then the third year it turned into third. I think it was 2016 when we went kind of full steam with it. And then it just kept going, and it became a thing that everybody wanted it. And then we created this brand behind it. Then we were draft only till 2018. So we first packaged in 18, and that's when John came up with the Maui Waui artwork as seen today, and it just went off, and it's just been.
What was it before that? It was just the
it's kind of like we had a magnet that we did the OG Maui Waui for Beer Week this last year for our anniversary, and that had the original artwork that Richie had drawn, and then we've doctored that up a little more, but it's just been, and then now it's created a whole brand. Now we've have 9 different variations of Maui.
Yeah, I'm drinking one of them right now, the Easy.
Yeah, so you got Maui Easy, you got regular Maui, you got the tropical Maui, we got Maui Fuel, we got double Maui, we got triple Maui, we got a wet hop Maui. Regular Maui is nuts. We joke about it. We're brewing it round the clock because it's just, that's what it does, which is great. But every single day, for the most part, unless we have a brand new triple or something, it's number one in our taste room every day. It's wild.
It's delicious beer.
I'll run a report every week, and it's not even close.
Wow.
It's 300 pints over the next beer.
Dang.
That much. It's crazy. It's even all our regulars. They want new beers all the time. We make them, and then they're like, sweet, yeah, that was super tasty.
Give me
take a Maui. I joke about it all the time. I'm like, don't give me shit that you want another IPA. Because you guys haven't come out with a new IPA in a while. I'm like, yeah, how was that 1 pint of that new IPA you had? And that 1 4-pack you might have bought, But it's fun to give customers shit. It's good.
Speaking about another Maui, I think I'm empty. I'm gonna need one. All right, so speaking about brands, we talked about Maui Waui. Another one, brand that I think is amazing, that I love, a local legend, Mac Dre. You guys have done the Mac Dre beer for quite some time now. Talk to me how that came about, how you work with the family, and kind of just the whole vibe behind that.
A lot of us here are big Mac Dre fans, being Bay Area guys. You know, it's like, and gals, we just grew up in that. You know, that's our guy for the gangster rap. You know, that's our guy. Like he's our Tupac. You know, and it's like
he was doing it since the 90s.
You got Too Short, you got Too Short, and you got E40. But like, if you wanted your hardcore kind of weird, you know, he made himself
the whole hyphy thing.
Yeah, Thiz Nation, all that. So we had brewed our very first Cascadian Dark Ale, and we didn't have a name for it. And we were all back at the back of the brewery one day, and again, we were draft only for so many years. From our first, 6 years was draft only. So we didn't really have to think about a brand of a beer too much, because it was literally just a tap handle magnet, you know? So we could think of a name the day before it went out for delivery, and we'd print the magnets and be done.
You didn't have to get labels.
We didn't have to worry about labels or cartons or whatever. So we were all in the back listening to Mac Dre one night, and Richie's like, let's call it Mac Drizzle. And I'm like, love it. So we did like cool little like Bay Bridge like magnet with him on it and stuff, and it was super cool. So we had that beer from 2013. I think we brewed the first year. Basically 2013 to 2018 with nothing. Like we brewed, you know, 3-4 times a year and do whatever. Super fun beer. So we've gone all that way with like nothing. People are like, oh, it's cool, you guys have that one Mac Dre beer. Well, the second we canned the very first one, which was our OG, the black IPA, in 18, you know, that was our very first can run. We did Maui Waui, Mac Drizzle OG, and I believe it was Scarcity. And so, of course, in today's world, we blasted all over social media. Well, like, instantly, it just blows up. And all these people are like, look at these people stealing the Mac Dre logo. Like, you better be paying his mom, and his kids better be getting the money, blah, blah, blah. And, like, we never really signed any, like, part. We didn't know what the fuck. Like, we were just like, whatever. Like, so we get a cease and desist from Thiz Nation Biz, and Ray Love runs that, and his mom.
Another rapper, Ray Love.
Yeah, Ray Love, exactly. Yeah, who's married to Tupac's sister.
I didn't know that.
They were just on the news the other day, because they're doing some Tupac thing in
Shout out to Ray Love.
Yeah, and so we get a cease and desist over like Instagram from Ray Love, because like his mom got tagged like 1,000 times in this post, and we're like panicking. We're like, oh shit, like what do we do? Like now we've pissed off the rap community. We're gonna die. Like we don't what's gonna happen, you know? So Ray Love calls us and he goes, hey, you know, like I want to come meet you cats. Like I want to come check it out. Like we have a weed line, we have a CBD line, we have whatever, and we've been talking about doing an adult beverage. And I was like, yeah, come on over, man. So Ray comes here, give him a tour around the brewery, give him a couple beers, and we're drinking, and he goes, you guys are fucking awesome. Like, you know, I can tell you're hardcore fans, you know, like, would you guys be down to talk a partnership? And then at that point, they got Wanda involved as well, who's Mac Dre's mom, who takes care of, you know, the estate and all that too. We end up working out a deal, and this was right as we had canned the Gold, which was like the one we're drinking now, which is a 5.2%. It's a nice little pale ale. So we had come out then, and we worked out a great partnership with them, and we became the official Mac Dre beer, which is awesome. So yeah, now we are like a signed partnership with them, and we're paying them royalties to use their brand, and they've basically given us the rights to anything Mac Dre on it. So John's gotten super creative with all the artwork, and we kind of decided to go down, kind of went like record label status. So we have the gold, we got the silver, the gold, the platinum. So we've kind of done that, and then the diamond, and then we have the diamond. So each one we've found iconic pictures of Mac Dre online, and like the silver's probably my favorite. It's one where he's on the Vespa. And I think he's in some South American country, but he's got like a Hawaiian shirt on and a big hat, and he's on a Vespa.
I know
so that one's cool. And then the diamond ones, him with his Adidas shirt when he's popping out of the sunroof. It's been a great thing for us. And now we have like a swag line.
That's awesome that you were able to, you know, some that we all love, the Bay Area legend, take it, and then now his daughter is
his family is getting, yeah, his brand's living on, his record label's getting, you know, it's all that stuff's getting it. So
that's right.
Yeah, it's cool.
Cheers to that, man. Cheers.
And
to that
it's linked into a couple other rappers too, but you know, we are near and dear in heart with the Mac Dre family, so we're seeing if there's other things, but you know, we've been hit up by a couple. And Nicotina hit us up and stuff. But,
no way.
You know,
Nicotina, Dre Dog, you heard it here first.
Yeah, we're like kind of like, hey, you know, Mac Dre that's who we're with. Like, you know, we'll figure it out in the future.
Yeah.
So
they did collabs, they did songs together.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, so we're brewing a beer today, the collab. You know, we're calling it More Clear and More Beer.
Yes.
Which I think goes into like where you guys put a stake in the ground when Hazy's were coming out. Make beer clear again.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. You guys have still not produced a hazy beer. Here we are, you know, what, I don't know, 8 years, 9 years into the hazy.
Made it through.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit.
All right, so that stemmed from basically year one of Altamont. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, it was only clear beer. Only time you had a hazy beer was a hef. Or like maybe a Belgian wit or, you know, something along those lines. Or maybe like an old ass Dunkelweiss that's been sitting warm on a shelf for a year, you know, or something, whatever. As a home brewer, how much do we care about clear beer, right? We poured everybody's beer for them. We would transfer from corny to corny just so your cake could go in a car and it was clear when you showed up to your homies or to NCHF or whatever.
Yep.
So we were in, like, you're forced to make clear beer. Like, literally, that's what beer was clear. If it wasn't, something was wrong with it.
There's like a point of pride behind
it.
Yes,
there was something wrong. People thought there was something wrong. So our very first year, you know, a lot of clarity comes to yeast management. Obviously, there's a lot of things, but healthy yeast will get you a clear product, way better than a lagging yeast. So we weren't brewing as much, and we pitch cone to cone here. We don't buy a new pitch every batch. We use multiple generations. So we had a time where we couldn't free up one tank, and the yeast sat a little longer. So naturally, it slows down. You're not feeding the beast, you know. Mm-hmm. So we had a batch of Rich Mahogany, which is our red ale. It's a hoppy red ale that's been around since day one. And, you know, previous batch was perfectly clear. And this one just like, it had like this like opaqueness to it. Like it was kind of like a I don't know, like a muddy red, kind of brownish color, right? Mm-hmm. But tasted great. Everything was great. We just could not, we biofined it like 3 times. It just would not get clear.
It wouldn't drop out.
It wouldn't drop out. So buyers are just calling me like, hey, what's up with this beer? It's hazy or it's cloudy, you know? And I'm like, yeah, no, well, it's fine. Sorry, man. Like, you know, it just didn't clear up. And they're like, well, all our customers are returning it. Like, something's wrong with it. Like, and I'm like, well, does it taste fine? Does it smell fine? Like, yeah. But like, people won't drink it. And I'm like, fuck. And they're like, bring us a new keg. And I'm like, hate to break it to you, but it's the same, you know, same batch of beers in my cold box. Like, we only have 4 tanks, like, you know?
Yeah.
So we had to fight this like huge battle about trying to either have an account keep a keg, or, you know, one of our red handles, it's either going to be empty for a month or 3 weeks because the next batch wasn't, you know, anywhere in sight. So circa 3 years later, we're at the opening gala and
that's a brewery?
Everybody's like, check out our hazy beer and our hazy beer. And I'm like,
this is when hazy's starting to go off.
What the hell is a hazy beer? And people would be like, I'm like, so it's just unfinished. Like, what do you mean it's hazy? Like, it's just unfinished. And they're like, no. And like, honestly, that first year, there was so many bad ones because no one had figured out what that yeast did and the re-fermentation and the hop creep and you named it. So like, I'm going around trying like 80% diacetyl bombs of beer, or just like heartburn from the yeast, or that gritty, that, you know, like
super green.
No one had figured it out, you know, so.
Water profile. There's so much that goes into that style. I don't want to minimize that
totally.
style.
That's, you know, and this was new. So at that point in time, me and Richie were just like, fuck this shit. We're fighting the fight. So, you know, it was funny. I was just talking about this with some guys at the bistro this last weekend for the IPA festival, because when hazy beers kind of were getting good, Vic allowed hazies in the single IPA, but not anymore. Now it's back to only clear beer.
You're back to clear beer?
Only back to clear beer.
Shout out to you, Vic,
we were there, I think it was the year before COVID. It's probably like 19.
Yeah.
And we were all at it, and me and Norby were like, raving to people about like how, in our opinion, Sierra Nevada made the best hazy beer. Like you could,
hazy little thing,
you could have it at a stadium, you could have it at a gas station, you could buy it at Safeway. It was always tasted good.
Shelf stability. Yeah.
They won gold that year.
Yep.
And all the hype boy guys that were there were pissed. Like, that's not even a fucking hazy.
Yeah.
That's not, that's bullshit. And I'm like, it's good. Like, the beer's good. Obviously, it was a blind taste test. They tried the murkiest to that. That was the best beer.
Sweetest. And
and it was funny because people were like, they don't make a real hazy. I'm like, well, what do you define a hazy then? And we just kind of were like, yeah, fuck all this. We're going to keep to what we're good at.
Man, that is, and here you guys are. I mean, there's not many breweries in the Bay Area. Faction's maybe the only other one that I could think of that have not made a hazy, and you guys are still crushing it.
My mentor, Boneyard, they still haven't done one either.
They haven't done one either?
It's
very few and far between.
It's very few. It's very few. I mean, obviously, all our homies make hazy beers. I mean,
don't yuck someone else's yum, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you guys do you. It's just like people used to always give a shit like, because we didn't brew a bunch of Belgian beers, or why don't you guys brew German stuff? And I'm like, dude, that's just not our forte. Like, I was never really trained that way. Even as a home brewer, I think I made like one Belgian wit and one hef, I think. Like I didn't. Yeah. I made pale ales and IPAs. Like that's in lagers. That's what I want to drink. Yeah, that's what I want to drink. Yeah. I go what I want to drink. It's like,
all right, so speaking of hazy, that's a great segue into like the state of the industry, where people are at right now. We've got
Clear Beer's back.
Clear Beer's back, right? Yeah, West Coast lagers, Crispies are starting to be a thing.
Lagers back.
And then there's like RTDs, there's seltzers, there's hop waters. Like, what's your take on the state of the industry? I've heard people like anything we do to drive people away from beer, is a bad thing. But some people are making really good hazies, like we talked about, and RTDs or whatever. What's your take on the state of the industry right now?
The industry's weird, right? Especially the last 3 years, I think during COVID was the hardest we've seen it. When everything moved to packaging, our future is our next generation is, we've heard from every data, right? They're getting lazier. They want everything in a can. The fact that people are paying $20 for 12 vodka sodas when you can get a handle of Tito's and a couple jugs of soda water, and you can make 100 for.
I never even thought about that. The lazy aspect of that, like you're just paying somebody
else
to mix.
All the studies show like. It sucks that in today's world, we live in an instant coffee world. Nobody wants to wait for the drip pot of coffee anymore. With social media, with everything this day, with the hustle and bustle, everybody wants everything now. Like, people want a vodka soda in a can because they can crack it and it's done. It's already got lime in it. It's already got vodka. It's already got that. I'm good to go. It's just like, that's where it's going. So you got to do it, and you got to put up with it. Every distributor, all our distributors through the last 3-4 years, that's the topic of every topic. It went from White Claw first and Truly, which now are, becoming more obsolete. When's the last time you went to a buddy's house and there's White Claw?
Ranch water now or whatever.
Now it's ranch water, or it's cut water with their vodka sodas, which are great. Don't get me wrong, they're tasty. My fridge has some cut water vodka sodas. But now you got the hard kombucha. You got I feel like it's always going to be there. It's a necessary evil, and it's inevitable. I think there's no way around it. Beers, obviously, I don't know. As an industry, it's still kind of going up but going down. It depends on which data you look at. Obviously, it proves the show. People still want their craft beer. They still like their neighborhood brewery. They still like all that. So I think it depends on your size too, right?
Yeah.
When you're a super small guy that doesn't distribute much, I get why you got to do a hazy. You got to do the seltzer. You got to do, because you're selling all your shit over, and then I feel like you see it in the big boys. You got to do what's going to keep you around. I think we're kind of in that zone still where you can kind of just keep doing beer, and we're still growing. We can't physically make enough beer yet, so it's like
That's a good take of depending on where you're at.
It depends on where you're at in the sector, Like my homies that sell like 90% over their counter and only do 1,500 barrels, I get why you make a seltzer. Like you want to get every dollar over that bar. I wish we could buy other people's like hard kombucha, or just have a non-gluten option.
You need food.
You need food for type 23. Yeah.
So let's talk about a lot of we're talking about where beer is today, but let's talk about the closures. So Anchor just closed recently. We've seen some small regional breweries. Ale Industries, another one that is big and been around.
I just heard about that.
Yeah. So we're seeing these closures. What's your take on that? And what's consolidation? What as far as closures go?
I mean, it's hard to tell because some that have closed, you kind of saw it coming, whether they didn't progress to canning, whether they didn't progress on a brand, whether they kept to just like, you go to a grocery store now, or even worse, go to a good bottle shop. I mean, you got sexy looking cans. If you're not trying to make a decent can, why would you buy it? And I think the biggest thing is seeing people making sure your product is good enough and stable enough to be on a shelf. I can confidently say if someone bought a 6-month-old Maui Waui that it would taste the day it was canned,
And I was talking to Norby earlier, and you guys got a cool new, your
we got some
PPM,
lab equipment,
got some lab.
Super low levels.
I was impressed with your guys' oxygen DO levels.
Yeah,
we've lower than most people even going into the can.
The manufacturer of the canning company was here and was like, dude, I cannot believe how well you guys have maintained this and got the numbers to where they are.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Because the team really cares. We do care, So you see that, like people, like you can't just put any old beer. That's why we didn't can for so long, because I want to make sure it's good. Because, in today's world, you go buy a 4-pack that sucks, you're really going to go spend $22 on another one of that same brewery? You're probably going to be like, dude, I got 150 other breweries to choose from. Why would I go back, You
never get a second chance to make a first impression.
Exactly, And some of the old school guys, it's super sad to see, but you look at the other old school guys, like Sierra Nevada's figured out how to grow during this crap time. New Belgium's grown during this crap time. And you look at what they've done. Like, are they probably, if you really had a gun to all their heads, is that their proudest moment to say, like, what kept New Belgium going is Voodoo Ranger with all the milkshake hazies? No, but guess what? They're cranking. Yeah. They're cranking. They're growing like crazy with that beer, And you look at Sierra Nevada, it's like, did Ken probably think he was ever going to do a hazy? Nobody does. He does a great one. It's working. And guess what? They're working, So you look at those big boys and it's like, I get it. You had to do it and it's impressive. And they did it right, and you do the branding, you do the marketing. Like, I feel like Anchor never, they rebranded a few years ago on the cans, but it wasn't a sexy brand to where you're going to really go out of your way to buy it. And
I feel like Anchor's going to stay around. Like we'll still be able to get Anchor steam. It's not going to be from that sexy brewery in San Francisco with the copper kettles.
Yeah, I'm hoping someone takes everything out.
Yeah.
I got a couple emails about it.
Did you?
I was like, I don't have that type of money. What are you charging $55 to buy Anchor?
Yeah, throw the hat in the ring. Yeah.
But I think you look at Lagunitas. They've said they were never going to can beer. Tony was adamant about that. Probably the biggest asshole on the face of the planet about cans. Like he used to post like pictures of like where cans come from and where cans go, and like this is why our beer's in bottles. Now, when's the last time you really had a Lagunitas bottle other than buying it there or something?
That's a funny transit because I feel like back in the early 2000s, like bottles is where craft beer was living.
Yeah.
Now it's living in cans.
When we were homebrewing, it was like, how many bombers did we buy?
Oh, yeah.
And you bought them because you reused them all the time too.
You reuse them, and I felt like glass was just but cans are actually a better vehicle for your beverage.
And we always, like, people always see me and like, you said you were never going to can. I'm like, I never said I was never going to can. I said I want to make sure my beer is good enough to put in cans. And I did say if we ever did another vessel, it would be cans because we are all extreme sports guys. Yeah. You're on the boat, you're on your backpack, you're snowboarding, you're hiking, you're doing whatever. Like, you can crush can and pack it out.
Yeah.
12-ounce bottles, you throw 5 of those in your backpack. Yeah. It's not
glass
and they're lighter, so
can's definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I was just talking to a couple guys this last weekend at the IPA festival, and they're just like, how are you doing? And we're like, it's nuts. Like, we can't keep up. And then one of the dudes is like, I'm closing in December. And I was like, yeah. But again, you look at it, and it's kind of an old school brewery and, not really, I don't know.
It's sad. It's sad to see these breweries go, but I think what you said earlier is totally on point. It's like, it's a business. And right, if you're not running it like that, if you're running it like, oh, just passion, you know, that's good. That can only get you so far though, right?
Yes,
You know?
and we've seen that with a lot of our friends that are, you know, I worked for whoever forever where I was a home brewer and I want to start it and it's my passion. It's like, you gotta have more than that. Like, I mean, passion's great.
Yeah.
I mean, there's days where I hate this place.
Yeah.
I mean, there's days where I don't even want to see it or hear it or even see anybody that works for me, you know? It's just like, there's just days where, you know, but I guess that's also passion, right?
Yeah.
You come back the next day and you conquer it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's,
You need the passion. That's part of it, but then the business side.
it's just like an athlete when they get hurt or something, you know? It's the worst. You'll go in the worst part of your life, but then you come back and you make it happen.
The get back.
Yeah.
The get back is key.
Yeah, totally.
Well, Steve, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
This is
cheers.
amazing. Delicious beers.
Thanks to MoreBeer.
Thank you.
Bought
man.
stuff from you guys as home brewers and still buying stuff from you.
Awesome. Cheers to that.
You actually got me all my stuff for the new brew house. Remember when I was hitting you up for all
Oh,
the
I
different
remember that. Yeah.
weird? I was like, I can't wait 10 days. You guys
Yeah.
got a 4-inch TC in stock. You got this. You got,
That's right. Yeah.
you got a 1.5 TC to an inch, you know, threaded.
Check out morebeerpro.com.
Yeah.
We have our pro site
Yeah.
as well as all the home brewings.
A lot of us pro guys, you know, you're gonna buy somewhere else. But if you need stuff quick, they got it.
Cheers.
Cheers.